Welcome, Robin. I'm having some deja vu, Robin. Oh, I can't hear your audio. I'm not sure if that's just me. Right. Welcome to everyone joining. I'm going to give this another minute or so and get started with today's event, the global birthday celebration in honor of Ann Richards. All right. Jennifer, Lisa, everything good to go from your end?
Good to go here.
Right. And Robin, is your audio working? Could you try to say something, please?
She's working on it, yeah.
Great. Again, thank you to everyone joining. Just getting a few technical kinks worked out here, and then we will begin the event and also start streaming on Facebook. Right. All right, Robin, I see your go ahead, so I'm going to link us up and we will go live on Facebook. One moment. And then Jennifer, the floor will be yours.
All right, thank you.
Can you hear me, Candace? Great, thank you.
All right. Looks like we're live on Facebook. Take it away, Jennifer.
All right. Welcome everyone to Texans Abroad's third global event, where today we celebrate the birthday of one of Texas's brightest lights and most inspirational figures. Thank you for joining us to honor Ann Richards' legacy as we turn our attention to the 2022 midterms and our efforts to inform and assess Texas voters living overseas. I'm Jennifer von Estorff, our Texans Abroad Europe and Middle East and Africa Regional Coordinator and Secretary of Democrats Abroad Germany. I was born and raised in Abilene, Texas, and have lived in Germany for the last 20 years. Since our first event in January of this year, Texans Abroad has been hard at work on a number of different fronts. One of our main goals is to improve the process of voting from abroad, both with better voting laws and through outreach and education of voters and county clerks. In an effort to make our Texas Dems at the state legislature more familiar with our constituency, we organized a postcard writing campaign. And in July, we hand delivered hundreds of postcards as well as goodie bags with information about Texans Abroad. On that day, we had many wonderful conversations and made sure to point out that the potential for winning new voters living abroad is vast, considering only 7% of eligible voters living outside the United States participated in the 2016 elections. In fact, we've already increased the numbers of ballots returned to Texas by 50%, up to 60,000 in 2020, compared to just 40,000 in 2016. Close to 90,000 voters requested a ballot, which shows just how key the work is to ensure that Texans living outside the US can make their voices heard without difficulty. We will continue to bring our concerns to the dedicated legislators and their hardworking staff. We've also met with several different legislative offices to inform them of our unique challenges when it comes to casting a ballot from overseas, and have support to move forward with legislation in 2023 that will reduce barriers that we face. One of the key issues we've discussed is a law that goes into effect today that will likely affect the ability of overseas voters to register to vote in Texas. At the end of our session, we'll give you further information and let you know what we're doing to get out ahead of the situation and to ensure that our voters are not disenfranchised. Thank you again for joining us today, and a huge thank you to our esteemed artists and guest speakers. We also welcome the International Chair of Democrats Abroad and a key supporter of our state outreach teams, Candace Garriston. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, for that great introduction. And again, welcome to all of you tuning in around the world. My name is Candace Garriston, and I serve as International Chair of Democrats Abroad, as Jennifer just mentioned. And I am really so thrilled to have you tuning into today's special event honoring former Texas Governor Ann Richards. I just want to take a moment here at the start, in case you might not be familiar with Democrats Abroad, to cover what we are as an organization and how state teams fit into our approach moving forward. So some key points to know: we are the largest organization, we being Democrats Abroad, largest organization of US citizens who are living outside of the United States. There's about 9 million US citizens living abroad. And Democrats Abroad is also an official arm of the Democratic Party. So if you think of all the 50 states and the territories, Democrats Abroad collectively counts as another one. It's really our mission within the Democratic Party ecosystem to provide Americans abroad with a voice in American government, and at the end of the day, elect Democrats all across the country, including in the reddest parts of Texas, by mobilizing the overseas vote. With your help, we thankfully did this in 2020. We can say with certainty that the votes from abroad were key to Biden's victories in Arizona and Georgia. And they also made a pretty big dent in Texas as Texas turns purple. However, as recent times have shown us, our engagement in the political process needs to extend beyond voting in presidential elections. They are important without a doubt, but we need to also keep our eye on what's happening at the state level, as we have seen time and time again as Republicans try to shove repressive voting laws through our state legislatures around the country. So what are we doing here at Democrats Abroad? We're really trying to strive to make the political process much more tangible to you, voters overseas, because we know that that is key to activating more networks and ultimately getting more US citizens voting, and to elevating our voices with lawmakers back home. And that really starts with state teams, which is why I really am so excited about this initiative. If you look at the structure of Democrats Abroad, we've traditionally been organized by country committees. For example, I live in Germany, so I belong to Democrats Abroad Germany, and we still do organize this way. And there is so much important on the ground organizing that happens all around the world, thanks to our country committees. One aspect that we're looking at as we move towards 2022 is the idea of also organizing around voting state. So I belong to Democrats Abroad Germany, but I'm also born and raised Pennsylvanian, and know things about voting in Pennsylvania, and would love to link up with others voting in Pennsylvania and talk about how we can reach even more people in such a battleground state. So again, that's really where state teams come in. We connect people in a different way, and we're also able to provide more personalized support and community moving forward. I have to admit, I vote in Pennsylvania. I've never voted a Texas ballot, but I do know, because of States Abroad, that there are people I can turn to if I do have questions and need to help a Texas voter. And that's really the beauty of this whole project, having that local knowledge, on the ground know-how to ultimately get better legislation through, connect more people, and get more votes to get Democrats elected so that we can keep on pushing policy that's going to be just and equitable for everyone. So with that, again, a huge thank you to tuning in. If you have questions and they're not addressed later in this, please write to states@democratsabroad.org. This isn't just limited to Texas. We have state teams popping up for a lot of the battleground states in 2022, and we would love to have you on board with Democrats Abroad in our state teams. So again, states@democratsabroad.org. Before we move on to the next section, just a huge thank you to all the organizers, particularly Jennifer von Estorff and Lisa Wiedmann, who have put together today's event. And I think Lisa's going to tell us a little bit more now about where we're headed and what's in store. So Lisa, the floor is yours.
Candace, and yes, there are exciting things ahead for Democrats Abroad, organizing by the states. My name is Lisa Wiedmann, and I am one of the many volunteers with Democrats Abroad and Texans Abroad. And like most of you, I have always been inspired by Governor Ann Richards since she was elected when I was in high school. And I always loved how she and Barbara Jordan and Sara Weddington and Molly Ivins just pushed their way forward to get a seat at the table that was occupied by mostly white men. She knew how to work that good old boy network, and she simultaneously played the game and turned it on its head. So happy birthday, Anne. You may be gone, but you will never be forgotten. I want to briefly mention that one of our honored guests is unable to make it today due to a last-minute scheduling conflict. Texas Poet Laureate Emmy Perez sends her regards to our assembled guests, and although she can't be with us today, I would like to encourage each of you to explore her sublime poetry and that of all of our illustrious state poets laureate. Books of poetry make great gifts. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce one of Texas' finest singer-songwriters. She's so good, in fact, that the state legislature made her an official state musician of Texas in 2010, joining the ranks of Billy Joe Shaver, Ray Benson, Willie Nelson, Lyle Lovett, and most recently this year, Leon Bridges. Sara Hickman is not only a fine musician, she is a humanitarian with a heart of gold. During this pandemic, our culture creators have struggled as public performances have dried up. Sara has graciously offered to perform for us in honor of Ann Richards today. And to show our appreciation, we will be posting a link to her Venmo tip jar in the text chat. So we may not be at a live music venue in Austin, but this is the next best thing. So be sure to tip your musician. Sara is joining us today from Austin. Sara, welcome, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's such an honor to be here. I'm a very proud Democrat. And I also want to give a shout out to Barbara Jordan because she's one of my heroes in that group of women. And I want to say happy birthday to Ann. She always had me come to her functions and play this song. If you guys want to sing along, a few people, because if there's anybody non-binary here, you can, when I say strong, then you say strong, just if you want to. Anyway, thanks to Ann Richards for being a dedicated, strong leader, and miss her every day. And I'm so happy that y'all are working hard to get overseas votes. Thank you for all you do. She's a career-minded woman, no time to stop, climbing the ladder all the way to the top. Watches her struggle and he tries to understand why a woman has to struggle twice as much as a man. She's a strong-minded woman, he's a gentleman. Well, she's off to work by 6 and packs a power in a lunch. She makes every single move on an intuitive hunch. She kisses him goodbye as she lets go of her hand, working for the dream of tomorrow that they plan. She's a strong-minded woman, he's a gentleman. He's made her favorite dinner, but she's too absorbed. Her mind is on tomorrow and her meeting with the board. She's a strong woman. Oh, she's a strong woman. Yeah, she's a strong woman. And he's a gentleman. Well, she brings home the bacon, he fries it up in the pan. His friends all call him crazy, call him a house husband, but he wouldn't trade his place in this liberated land, working for the equality of every woman. She's a strong-minded woman, he's a gentleman. She's happy happy that she found him and that they both agree. A job has no gender in a world of equality. A strong, strong woman. Oh, she's a strong, strong, strong woman. Yeah, she's a strong, strong, strong woman. And he's a gentleman. Strong woman. And this is where Anne goes. Strong woman, strong woman, strong woman, strong woman. Put your hands up in the air like you just don't care. It's shorter without a lead guitarist, but thank you for letting me sing that so much.
Bravo, Sara, bravo. We needed that today. We need some celebration on this day.
Yes.
Thank you so much for shining your light so brightly in this world. We really
Go get
appreciate
them. Go get those votes. And thank you for all you do. Thank you so much. And I'll write postcards again whenever you need.
All right, good deal.
Thank you.
All right, for Democrats to win elections in Texas, every constituency must organize. As a state team of Democrats Abroad, Texans Abroad is dedicated to ensuring ballot access for every Texan living overseas so that we can do our part to ensure the margin of victory. As an all-volunteer organization, we are fortunate to have very little overhead costs. Every dollar or euro or peso or yuan that you donate goes into GOTV, getting out the vote. The driving mission of Democrats Abroad is to educate Americans living overseas of our voting rights. This translates directly into increased voter participation. Raising awareness, contacting voters, and troubleshooting ballot access issues isn't free. That's why we're asking you to join us today in making a donation of $20.21 to support our work as Texans Abroad. Speaking of strong Texas women, I am pleased to introduce one of our favorites. Jana Lynne Sanchez ran in a special election earlier this year for a seat in Texas Congressional District 6 after Republican Congressman Ronald Wright died of COVID-related complications. Janna ran an impeccable race and narrowly lost, heading into a runoff by around 350 votes. Janna, we would like to welcome you once again as a guest of Texans Abroad. And if you could please unmute.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak to Texans Abroad or Democrats Abroad. You asked me to speak about one of my favorite subjects, Ann Richards and her legacy, and also the thing that kept me awake half the night last night, what's happening in Texas. And I apologize because I'm very emotional today. I think like most women across Texas. I think that every Democrat in Texas and probably elsewhere is very familiar with Ann Richards' legacy. We remember her witty oratory, her image of her riding a Harley or sitting on a Harley with that fringe leather, of dove hunting, of her 1988 convention speech that brought down the House. Her stature is almost mythical in terms of importance in the Democratic Party and certainly in Texas. Over the last few years, I've heard so many, especially women, say, what would Ann Richards do if she were here today? And what do you think she's doing up there in heaven, staring down at us? What do you think she's thinking? Over the past few years, we've come to expect the worst of the Republican Party. But today, I woke up in a state where my bodily autonomy has been taken away. I'm so sorry, guys. I wasn't planning to cry through this. I'm just so emotional today. Try to pull it together. And where Republicans have waged a war on women, they've taken our reproductive rights back to before Roe v. Wade. They're also waging a war on children and families and science with a completely lie-filled campaign about masks. They're trying to prevent children from wearing masks in schools when we know that masks save lives. They are sending people around to board meetings, school board meetings around the state who are spouting lies. Meanwhile, the shelves at Tractor Supply Co. are empty from horse dewormer, and vaccines are going unused. And he's spending our money to build a wall to keep out immigrants who he says are spreading COVID, another lie. Today is the first day of constitutional carry in Texas, and that means any person who wants to can carry a gun with no licensing, no training, and no recourse. And I think that those of us who have studied the Constitution and the history of it know that the Second Amendment was actually there to help militias. And those militias were there to support the slave patrols who were rounding up enslaved people. Sorry. And today, the most restrictive voter suppression law since the Jim Crow era is sitting on the desk of Governor Abbott to sign. And they know that this is based on the big lie that Trump won the election. And they know that if we don't vote, they will win. And they're doing everything in their power to prevent us from voting. There are also new laws against transgender children and against teaching history in our schools. Ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake, the Republicans are waging a war on women, on children, on people of color, on the LGBTQ community, on science, on history, and most importantly, on truth. Ann Richards said, "We are not going to have an America that we want until we elect leaders who tell the truth, not most days, but every day." We have the polar opposite in Texas today. We have a state where those who have ruled for decades are doing everything possible to hold power through lies in the face of changing demographics and an awakening majority. So what would Ann Richards do today? I met her once. My 27-year-old self didn't appreciate the enormity of that occasion. And I certainly cannot claim to have known her, but I do feel from knowing her words and her actions, I know exactly what she would do today. She would be angry as hell and she would be raring to go. Ann Richards inspired many Democratic women across our state to run for office. Me, as well as Liz, and probably every other woman who ran in Texas in the last few years. And I think I speak for myself when I say, I hope that there's a little bit of Ann Richards in me. I certainly have aspired to be strong like her and to speak my mind and to make a difference. As they say, Ann Richards walked through fire and the fire lost. So all I can do at this moment when it all seems stacked against us is continue to fight. And I do it because we must. And I know as an expat, because I was one for 18 years and I was a member of Democrats Abroad, that you probably feel like you can't do much to change the course of history from so far away. But I assure you, you can. I appreciate that you're doing texting and phoning and writing postcards for Democratic candidates. And I hope that you are also sending them your hard-earned money and your moral support, because I can tell you as a candidate, nothing is better and more appreciated than a donation to a campaign. And as much as I am pretty sure I speak for every woman who's run for office in Texas, or every Democrat who's run for office in Texas, we cannot give up and we cannot get down. We have to keep ourselves motivated and we have to keep fighting. In the words of Ann Richards, there's nothing wrong with you, nothing wrong that you can't fix in November. Thank you. I apologize for my emotion today, guys. It's been so hard.
Thank you so much, Jana. And there's no need to apologize for that.
It's
Not
just
at
so
all.
raw for everyone who's here. It's so raw.
We really appreciate you being with us again. And we're just so thankful for your moving words. And, you know, this, as terrible as a day that this is for Texas, we are so proud and we are so relieved that we are in this fight with strong Texas women such as yourself.
And you, thank you.
We're really glad to have you in our corner. So on that note, try to pull myself together now too. We would like to extend a special welcome to another strong Texas woman, our Texas State Representative, Barbara Girvin Hawkins, a fellow educator like me and a mother of 2 boys. So that alone makes you strong. She represents the northwest corner of San Antonio in District 120 and serves on several Texas House committees, including the Defense and Veterans Affairs Committee. Just to note that Democrats Abroad also represents the interests of military voters, that we are all protected by the same federal laws, the UOCAVA laws that protect not only overseas citizens, but also those actively serving in the military. And we have a large number of members in the military, and we also have a lot of veterans who continue to live overseas after they served. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule during this second horrendous special session of the Texas Legislature to speak with us today. Thank you so much, Representative Girvin Hawkins, and we would turn the floor over to you.
I want to say thank you. Thank you for having me, and good afternoon to everyone. And ladies, one thing I want to share with you all, it's okay to cry. It's a woman thing, okay? It just shows our passion, our emotion, and how we put our heart and soul into things. I remember my first session, which was difficult in many ways. I did cry on the floor and I tried to hide it. And then what I did realize is, hey, it's a woman thing. So I'm gonna own it. Because when you're working among men and in difficult situations, we are emotional. But I also want to share, to me, it's a great day. And I'm so happy that y'all are celebrating Ann Richards. You know, one thing, I've had a great opportunity to go to the governor's house to meet her when she was serving. And I too took it for granted, being 20 something years old and really not understanding what she had to go through during that time. And also all the wonderful things that she was able to get done. My hope and my prayer is that even though we've had a difficult session with horrible bills, that we use this opportunity as our motivating factor. We have to think, what would have Ann had done if indeed she was around at this time? And so that's the question. What would she have done if indeed she was living today? What would she tell us? And I think the big thing she would tell us is, hey, sisters, it's time to get to work. You know, in her raspy voice, she would tell us it's time to get to work. And so I'm hoping we not wait till next year, but we get started right now, mobilizing people and showing our comrades across the aisle that you may have put all these barriers in front of us, but we will win because we're going to turn out. So my commitment is to educate my folks, to get them ready so that we can get ready for the primary. Well, first of all, redistricting, then the primary, and then the election. I want us to take some seats, y'all. Let's turn this negative year into a positive year and let that be the momentum, the wind beneath our wings to fight, fight, fight. So again, thank you for having me, and I'm so happy to share today. Any questions for me?
I think that's so great that you were able to join us. I don't know, does anyone in any of our viewers have a question you'd like to pop into the box for Representative Girvin Hawkins?
I would like to greet her as a question might come in. Representative, my name is Robin Emerson. I'm from Austin. I'm the goddaughter of Hazel Falke Obi. And
Nice to meet you.
and Eva Lindsay, and I spoke with Linda Jan Lewis last night as I was preparing to come on here. And, you know, and we were just 9 seats away from Symphonia, Representative Symphonia, the dean, getting into that speaker seat, if you will. So we've got, like you said, we've got work to do, and it's not a far stretch, but we got to go claim those seats, and we've got to get in some leadership that represents our values.
I agree. And you know, one of the things I think too, this is a time, I'll put it like this, as a preacher would put it, at such a time like this, what is our calling? And our calling has to be to fight the good fight as it relates to the things that are happening to our communities. The voter suppression deal was so horrific. The attack on our democracy is so terrible. Ladies, we cannot allow it to happen. And so let's lock arms across this state. Let's bring as many folks that we can to the table, and let's fight the good fight. We're going to call 2022 our year. We're preparing for it in 2021, and we're going to be ready in 2022. So thank you.
That's right. Thank you so much, Representative Girvin Hawkins. I believe Ann Richards was the one who said, the here and now is all we have, but if we play our cards right, it's all we'll need. So
That's right.
I hear you, and it's time to get busy in the face of all of these attacks by your Republican colleagues. We would like to extend our appreciation to you and your entire staff for your dedication and determination in these strange times. Texans Abroad, thanks you.
Thank you for
so
having
let's
me.
go ahead and rewind to last year this time, September 1st, 2020. The United States Postal Service, under the leadership of Trump donor and lackey Louis DeJoy, was being actively dismantled. The pandemic in its second wave had halted or dramatically reduced mail delivery in many of the countries where our members live. The DA ballot protection team was spending unprecedented hours helping members troubleshoot their ballot access issues. So would the ballots arrive in time? We all wondered. Many made plans at great personal expense to return their ballots by private mail courier. Others were hoping that the mail service would come through and that our ballots would arrive on time to be counted. The DA phone banking team was making close to 600,000 calls to DA members to remind them to order and send in their ballots right down to the wire. So voting for American citizens living overseas isn't as simple as popping into the local grocery store or a local church. It's a long, tedious, drawn out process fraught with concern that it will even work out in the end. And as you will find out later from Jennifer, we have more reason to be concerned. But we're Texans. If anyone tries to take away our right to vote, we will remember the words of Governor Richards when she said that she probably would have raised more hell. Amen. We are up for this fight. And that fight is taking place right now in the halls of power in Austin at the state legislature. The 87th legislative session has been a wild one. It is my honor to introduce to you now a great woman who is very familiar with the workings of the ledge. Dr. Eliz Markowitz was the 2020 Democratic candidate for State House District 28. She's a lecturer at the University of Houston's Department of Psychological Health and Learning Science, and she's an author. Eliz, welcome. And don't forget to unmute.
Hey, y'all. I hope everyone is doing well. I know today is a terrible day for Texans and Texans who care about women's rights. And I think we do need to remember that it's okay to grieve. Ann Richards did have a quote about grief and said, I think that you have to deal with grief in the sense that you have to recognize it and say that it's okay to have all the sadness. So everyone, we're all fighting the same fight. And again, it's okay to be sad. And let's just turn that sadness and let's turn that grief into action, because that's truly going to be the only way that we're able to turn this situation around. But thank you for having me. I look forward
Thank you for coming.
I look forward to answering your questions and having a discussion about the craziness that is the Texas Ledge.
Why isn't it though? So today is September 1st. It is not only Anne's birthday. In 2021, it is also the date, as Jana alluded to, that many horrid laws, 666 in fact, not all of them horrid, but many horrid laws are taking effect, from permitless open carry of weapons to the nation's worst anti-choice laws, to laws restricting the right of local governments to self-determination, to punitive bail reform, and I could go on. The downward spiral in Texas has taken a frightening turn. And unfortunately, we don't have the time today to discuss the vast impact that these ultra-conservative laws will have on our political landscape, because there is a single issue that our group has to remain focused upon, and that is voting rights. What can you say today, Eliz, about the state of democracy in Texas?
Well, if we were to talk about the state of democracy in Texas as of today, it's broken. And it's crumbling at a rapid rate. We've seen that in the initial legislative session, they attempted to push through what's now SB1 and take away souls to the polls. They wanted to eliminate drive-through voting. They wanted to eliminate ballot by mail for individuals who did not intend to return to America at some point. They wanted to have one drop box for large urban counties that have over 1 million individuals in them, and would cause individuals to have to drive over an hour to go to drop off their ballots. And the majority of this stuff is actually in the bill that passed, which is what's so horrific about this. There are implications for our disabled voters, because now when they go to vote, the driver of those voters has to have documentation that shows that they understand the disabilities and aren't swaying the voters' intention. We enabled partisan poll watchers to have more power at the polls without repercussions if they intimidate voters. So quite frankly, we are facing the worst voter suppression bill that has happened, and is rightly called Jim Crow 2.0, because its intention to suppress the votes of the disabled, minority voters, and those of a lower socioeconomic status is vast, and it's vile. And the only thing that we can do at this point is hope that the Senate passes the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, and we can get this overturned essentially and return a state of democracy to Texas, because this is not democracy and nobody should have to jump through hoops for the right to vote.
You're absolutely right. And I think it is incumbent upon all of us to do our part, which means calling our senators, which I know in Texas, calling Cornyn and Cruz, they need to hear from us. For all of the other states, please turn up the pressure on the Senate. So yes, it is quite a bleak picture, but it is what it is. And this is what we are faced with handling. We have to handle our business. This week, SB1 passed through both houses of the state legislature and is now headed to Governor Abbott's desk for his signature. What can you tell us about the provisions in the so-called election integrity bill, which we just discussed? What kind of effect do you expect that it will have on voter turnout next year in the midterms?
So obviously the intent of this bill is to suppress the vote of minorities, the disabled, those of a lower socioeconomic status. What my hope, however, is that those individuals are going to be so angry that their votes were attempted to be suppressed, that they are going to do everything in their power to turn over what has become the most vile legislation we've seen come out of the Texas House and Texas Senate in decades. And so my hope is that they'll be motivated to come out. I know that we have teams all over Texas who are going out and registering voters on a daily basis, trying to make sure that everybody has the right to vote. So when voting time does come, all it takes is getting to the polls. And that in of itself is an issue, but we also have companies and organizations who are creating groups to take people to the polls if they need to. And they're willing to fulfill this documentation request and put their lives on the line in order to ensure that we can elect individuals who tell the truth, individuals who are fighting for what's right, and individuals who are not going to kowtow to this Republican pandering that has been taking over the state.
That's right. And we need to remind those voters to please take your own water because the blows do not stop. So recently, the state Democratic delegation broke quorum in dramatic fashion, not just once, but twice, to protect the voting rights of Texans. In retaliation, we have seen that the state GOP has frozen Democrats out of the process, particularly now with regard to SB 1. Going into another special session, this time on redistricting, what do you think we can expect?
I don't think we can expect anything good. We know that in 2011, when redistricting took place, that the courts ruled that it was partisan and it was racist in its nature. However, they didn't vote to have Texas redraw those maps or overturn those decisions. So for the past 10 years, we've been working with gerrymandered maps that are broken and cracked and packed and hijacked among partisan and racist lines. And I think we can expect more of the same to occur in this session. That being said, if we do pass HB 1 for the People Act, there are nonpartisan gerrymandering provisions within that bill that will allow for an independent redistricting committee and would take the partisan nature of drawing these maps out of the hands of these legislators and put it into the hands of individuals who are nonpartisan and truly concerned about creating equitable maps. And I think that is the best thing that we can hope for, because otherwise we will be stuck with another 10 years of gerrymandered maps. And while the tide is changing in Texas and we are becoming a purple state, and the trends would show that therefore we will become a blue state in the future, until that tide does change, we will be stuck with these maps, and we will probably see more of the same restrictions and restrictive legislation come out of the House and Senate that we have seen over the past year and a half, or year. It seems like it's been 10 years with all these special sessions, but it's only been a couple years, or a year and a half. So I think we just need to keep fighting. And if you call your congressional representatives and tell them to support the For the People Act, call your senators, call Manchin, call Sinema, put the pressure on them to support these bills so that we can actually have nonpartisan, fair maps in Texas.
That's right. You know, that reminds me of another great Ann Richards quote when she said, if you don't have a seat at the table, then you're likely on the menu. So we all have to make sure that we're pushing our way to get a seat. So let's talk about the 2022 midterms. Where are the Democratic candidates in the governor's race?
Oh my God, that's such a good question, right? You would think, since we're just over a year out, that we would have more than none showing up. Right? The Republican side has at least 4 people, and other than a couple minor candidates who simply don't have the resources or power to win, we don't have any large names stepping forward. So it is a great question. I'm sure we are all wondering who is going to.
Well, we're all on pins and needles.
Yes.
Waiting for that big announcement.
Yeah, hopefully we'll hear soon. But I think it also goes to show that there's major dysfunction within the Texas Democratic Party, that they have not been able to develop even a handful of candidates that we can list off that would be viable individuals to run for governor. And so I think if we truly want to make a difference in this state, we need our state party to start investing in building up candidates instead of simply sending out fundraising emails and hoping for the best. And maybe
So
that's
what other races, just real quick, do you think at the present moment are competitive?
So I definitely think that the lieutenant governor race is going to be competitive. A lot of Republicans are unhappy with Dan Patrick, and we know Democrats are unhappy with Dan Patrick. And Mike Collier, when he ran for that position in 2018, was the closest candidate in the statewide races to come to overturning or rejecting Dan Patrick's reelection. He is running again, and he has started early. And hopefully after the vile things that Dan Patrick has said over the past few years, where we should sacrifice our grandparents because what are we going to let a disease take over, or just a myriad of different vile and disgusting statements he's said. I would hope that we would be able to bring over not only the Democratic vote, but also the moderate Republican vote who is simply tired of this far right propaganda. I would also say that Ken Paxton, under indictment repeatedly, I think people are tired of that. And so we have 2 candidates running in that race, both of whom would be great should they win the primary. So we have Lee Merritt, and then we have Joe Jaworski. I think they're both strong in their own right. And obviously we will be supporting whomever wins that primary nomination. But I think, and again, those are really the only, and correct me if I'm wrong, the statewide candidates who have really announced, because I think that the results of 2020, while we won the presidential race and we're extremely excited about that, it was a disappointing year for the Texas Ledge. As Robin had mentioned, I believe, we only needed these 9 seats in order to stop this partisan gerrymandering, in order to stop this entire session of doom and destruction from occurring. And unfortunately, we were unable to gain even 1 seat. We had a net win of 0. And so there was a lot of talk about how based on 2018, we were going to be able to do all of this great stuff. But I think that also, again, points to a lack of support from the party and support from national party resources as well, who have consistently undercounted Texas and undervalued the power of Texas Democrats. And again, until people invest in Texans and invest in this state, we are going to continue seeing this horrible legislation continue to pass through because we simply don't have the support as candidates to make that win occur.
Right, you are absolutely right. We have our work cut out for us, and the clock is ticking, but we do have time to organize. So one final question to wrap up with you. Do you see a way out of the bitter partisan divide in Texas?
Absolutely. So while everything may seem gloom and doom, and while I don't think we will be able to break this partisan divide within the next year, maybe even 2 years, everything is cyclical. And again, the trends are changing in Texas. So it doesn't matter how gerrymandered they make it. Eventually, our population and our numbers are going to outweigh the old guard. And when that happens, and it will happen, we will be able to reverse all of these terrible decisions that are being made. And we will be able to create a democratic state that serves the people and is not focused on the power and prestige of politicians who are elected and care nothing about serving the people that they're elected to represent, but only care about themselves. And so if we continue to fight, if we continue to activate each other, and if we continue to fight the good fight, we will make a difference. As Martin Luther King said, the moral arc of justice always curves. I can't even remember the quote. I'm such a terrible human. But
Bends towards justice.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. All right. Woo! Just confused a couple words there, but yes.
We work together, us Democrats.
I mean, the point, right?
That's right.
So yeah, I feel it's not going to happen instantly, but it will happen. And we just can't let it break our spirit.
Well, you're absolutely right, Eliz. Thank you so much. Your optimism is a reminder that even in the darkest of days, we can be the light for each other. So thank you very much.
So much, guys. And thank you to Democrats Abroad for everything you do. Obviously, your votes make a difference. And if there's anything that we can do here in Texas to help you guys keep fighting the good fight, obviously reach out to us and we will be willing to do anything in our power and everything in our power to make sure that your voices are heard.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we are going to need all of our optimism and all of our humor going into 2022. We will also need money. When we pool our resources, we are able to leverage our potential as an organization. That's why we are also taking this opportunity today to invite you in to help us build out our capacity ahead of these critical midterm elections in 2022. I will post yet again the link to make a donation in the chat. But now I have the pleasure of introducing our fellow Texan and the DA country chair for Kenya, Robin Emerson. Welcome, Robin.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Jennifer, for this invitation. It is so awesome to be among Texans who have a heart for Texas and a heart. Oh, I just want to sing all the songs. If I could just sing all the songs about Texas, I just deep in the heart of Texas. Come on, y'all. Clap, clap, clap. Yes. And Eliz, oh, your optimism. Thank you so much. Eliz, I worked at Gary Morrow's both his gubernatorial campaigns. And I'm telling you, Eliz, we had that same fire. We had that same fight. We said we can do it, we can do it, we can do it. And I woke up on the second time and he didn't win. And unfortunately, we gave a pass to George Bush, who then went on to become the president. So you can blame me and all the others on that team. But I woke up in a fog that next morning. It took me 2 or 3 weeks to get out of, because I knew what was happening. I knew exactly what was happening, Eliz. I knew exactly what was happening and where the Texas was going because of that turn, and where the country was going, because we can see that was a straight shot to George Bush becoming president. And Gary, he got into that race. As you talk about gubernatorial candidates and big names, Gary got into that race because he said somebody's got to stand. There was no one, it's not, he didn't have it was completely a Hail Mary, Eliz and Lisa and everybody. It was a Hail Mary, and Gary and all of us, Hazel Loby, all of us and everybody that got in there, they said someone has got to stand and at least say there is something different, better for Texas. And I am proud to have been on that team that stood for that. But I just want to tell you a little anecdotal story to just capture who Ann Richards is for me. So May Jackson, a woman who Ann had supported in her hometown area of Waco. She, first was on the pardon and parole board, and then she ran for city council in Waco. But then she was starting to prepare her run for mayor of Waco. And she did that, and she had a good friend that had been working with Ann for several years, throughout the years. I mean, from Bullock years and from, oh my gosh, just all through the years. And Linda happened to be helping May on this mayoral race. And Linda said, hey, we're in Austin. Let's just go stop by, and see what Ann is up to here at the governor's office. I mean, she's only running a state. Let's just pop in and see, might she be doing anything? Okay, so they go in, and Ann is not there, which she's probably running a state. And so Linda leaves a message, just a handwritten note, and she says, Ann, I want to let you know, May is trying to be my boss, and she's trying to get me to come and run her campaign, but she can't make me, and I just wanted you to get her straight, because they had that kind of relationship. And so they went back to Waco, and a week later, Linda got a handwritten note on a state of Texas seal letterhead, and it said, Dear Linda, I'm so sorry to have missed you. I would have loved to have gone and had a cool beer with you. And you tell that May she's not the boss of anything. And I'm telling that to I want to illuminate a few things inside of that story, if you don't mind, just to get a sense of that's who Ann was in several ways. So I worked at the General Land Office from 1991 to 1998. And so I could see out my window that state capitol and all of there in the state complex, and worked with Gary and many other fabled people during that time. That was just a story time at that period. But I tell that story to share Ann's amazing, her unique, her genuine heart, her loyalty, her being a fighter, her straight talk that Ann was. And so just a couple of things here. Ann was, she believed in political debate. She wanted you engage in, policy and engagement. She wasn't just for the argument's sake and, these quick fixes, if you will. She wanted to hear and debate and do that over and over again so that we can refine and perfect our policies, that we can refine and perfect our voices and our opinions and be able to hear each other. And that's what's missing right now. We want to hear our opinions. We don't want to be able to understand and try to refine and come to something different. So I come from the tradition of women warriors like Ann and others who want to continue to articulate ourselves and our actions so that they make a difference and they have a lasting, powerful impact on people's lives. So that's one thing that I wanted to illuminate. I also want to illuminate something that's a friend of mine reminded me. Ann didn't know that she needed to be afraid. Like someone hadn't whispered her and said, Ann, you can't do that. No, you can't go there. No, you're not supposed to sound like this. Ann had no filter of what needed to be said, how it needed to be said, or any of that. It was here to there, right there, right? But we know where it came from. It came from a place of a heart. It came from a place of caring. And as an only child, her mother made her know she was a special person. And she wanted to make certain that that was imparted on others. And we thank her for that. Ann was principled. She wasn't here just, again, willy-nilly. She had principles. And we need to be able to continue to bring our principles. What are those values that we hold so well? When I think about today, all of those 600 or so policies that you mentioned that came into effect, I'm thinking about the number of them that have impacted me personally. If I was standing in the state of Texas and the shrinking of my life and my space and my capacity to want to make a new decision and want to go and care for my own body and the capacity to do that. When I think about that, I know exactly why Jan was in tears earlier. And the other one is like, we can't forget her friend Molly Ivins, whose birthday was just 2 days ago also. And you could just think about what the two of them are up there doing right now. They're probably they're giving all of us a tongue lashing. I'm telling you, they're giving all of us a tongue lashing. All of us a tongue lashing. And so I just want to invite all of us to just, the lady Sara earlier, she took me back to the Cadillac Grill Cactus Grill in Austin. You've taken me back to Schultz's. You've taken me back to all of these special places where politics, and we got together and we laughed. We didn't take this personal. We worked together. We built alliances. We built friendships that have lasted years and years. So Linda, Jennifer, everyone here, please let us work together. Let us come up with some ideals and some plans. Elisa, she talked about the lack of investment. That's been happening for years. That's why we have not had a Democratic governor for over 26 years in that state. This is not new. And so what is it going to take for us to say, Texas is worthy of that investment? Don't leave us out. We're right on the cusp. And so I'm just here to honor Ann. When I go into that rotunda and I see Ann's picture as a first woman since Ma to be governor, she inspires me. She continues to inspire me, and may she forever inspire the next generations to come and serve our great state of Texas. Thank you.
Robin, thank you so much. I have to say that you inspire me, Jennifer inspires me, Eliz, Candace, Sara, everyone who has been here today, Janna. I am feeling as inspired as I do when I think of Ann, because this working together that you referred to, that's what it's going to take. It's going to take us linking up arms and pushing ahead. These are the days that we may not have wanted, but these are the days that are ahead of us. And this is the work that we have to do. We owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to each other. So Robin, thank you so much for showing up today and for sharing. And now I am going to turn it back over to Jennifer, who is going to provide us with some more sobering news about a new law that went into effect today that may very likely impact Texas voters living abroad.
Thanks so much, Lisa. In the final days of the regular session, Republicans passed Senate Bill 1111. This bill was intended to target homeless people who often use P.O. boxes of charitable organizations or churches to register to vote. It was highly contentious and heavily debated, but nonetheless passed and went into effect today. In its broad stroke to nail down voters to a current residence, it also puts into question the ability of voters living overseas to even register to vote in Texas. The text of the bill states a person may not designate a previous residence as a home. This statement, as we well know, is in direct contradiction to both federal UOCAVA laws, the laws that protect overseas voters, and existing Texas election code, both of which allow us to provide the last address of our place of residence in order to register to vote. There are several groups who are exempted from this new rule, including active military and their families. However, whether by mistake or with intent, overseas citizens were not exempted from this rule, along with members of the Merchant Marine and the National Guard. As soon as this bill came to the attention of Texans Abroad, we alerted the Democrats Abroad XCOM and reached out together to all Democratic members of the Texas House Election Committee and the Senate State Affairs Committee. And within a few days, we had met with Representative Beckley's and Representative Gonzalez's chiefs of staff. The first special session had just commenced, and we discussed potential legislative strategies, as well as other avenues to ensure that SB 1111 does not disenfranchise overseas voters. However, quorum was broken the following week, eliminating the possibility of having the bill amended. We also met with Rose Clouston, Voter Protection Director of the Texas Democratic Party, and Jake Kinswill of the DNC Voter Protection Team. And we've discussed a variety of avenues to deal with the effects of SB 1111. We'll also be meeting with Mark Elias's team to get an update on the progress of their lawsuit, which they have brought on behalf of Vota Latina, and to see if we also can benefit from this legal action. I'd like to turn over to our legislative coordinator, Candace Ayler. We're so grateful that she is another strong woman and a member of this team, not only because of her spirit of dedication and engagement, but because of her personal experience, both as a candidate for the Texas Legislature and the lobbyist for mental health report. Candace.
Thanks, Jennifer. So I am with you guys from Berlin, Germany. I'm a member of Texans Abroad or Democrats Abroad through the Germany chapter. And I think lobbyists suggest that I was a paid activist under the dome. I was very much figuring it out on my own, mama that wanted to change laws for my family. And that's kind of how it started. And I did a lot of health policy advocacy as a nurse in Texas for 20 years. And then racial justice, criminal justice reform. We worked on a lot of things in the years that I was in Austin. And I'm very grateful for that experience because now it's coming into a lot of use with the things that Texas is trying to do to my current rights to vote as a Texan now living abroad. So last Monday, we met with Texas Representative Vicki Goodwin's Legislative Director, Mike O'Connor. And we met with him to discuss the application of SB 1111. Since quorum had recently been restored, there was a small window for them to introduce an amendment to SB 1, the Republicans' notorious voter suppression bill. And that amendment was to exempt all overseas voters from the requirements of SB 1111. Now, since this is a special session, SB 1 was the only bill dealing with voting and the last chance for legislative action before the regular session in 2023. So debate on SB 1 began on Tuesday, and Representative Goodwin did introduce an amendment on behalf of Texans Abroad. Unfortunately, despite the best efforts of her and her staff, they had reached out to the author of SB 1 and explained the necessity of the amendment. Rep. Murr and his staff turned a deaf ear to that and did not accept the amendment, thus causing it to be voted down along partisan lines. As it stands, SB 1111 goes into effect today. And we have reviewed information from the Texas Secretary of State to better understand how the new address confirmation process will be applied and what documentation will be needed to meet the requirements. We will be continuing to work together with the voter protection teams in Texas and the DNC, as well as meeting with county clerks' offices to determine how they will apply the new rules to overseas citizens and develop guidance to help Texans living abroad to navigate the changes. Our goal will continue to be ensuring that this is corrected through legislation at the soonest possible opportunity. That may be 2023, but if something arises sooner, I will be watching very closely what the legislature is doing and where our opportunities may lie. But in the meantime, we will do everything we can to support Texans living abroad and registering to vote. So in preparation for this egregious attempt to disenfranchise voters, please register to vote in 2021 to ensure that you can register without the hurdles in preparation for 2022, or without too many of the hurdles. If you have a Texas driver's license, keep it up to date. That's going to be probably a really important factor in the ease of process as we move forward. And then when possible, please state that you intend to return. That's a really important part. of your application on the federal postcard application to make sure that you check that box or, select that option of intend to return. This allows you to remain on the permanent voter registration rolls and should prevent you from having to deal with the ramifications of SB 1111 every year. And I would just want to take a quick second to say that of all of my experiences and memories of Anne, I was literally under the dome when Wendy Davis did her filibuster for our rights. And I was standing there with my then 12-year-old daughter and her other mom, my wife. At the moment that kind of the house erupted, they locked us in. It was a pretty contentious event. I turned around and I realized that we were standing right next to Anne's picture, and I felt her strength in that room, in that building. So this is an emotional day for me as well. And I am just really thankful that we had this opportunity. That I don't know that we had any idea that this call was going to be this opportunity for catharsis for all of us. But yeah, I'm very thankful to be able to be a part of this, and I am definitely not giving up on this this voter issue for us. So we will continue to fight for our to ensure that our rights are protected to vote. So back to you, Jennifer.
Candace. When we started planning this event many months ago, we couldn't know what September 1st would mean, and that 666 bills would go into effect today, and even one that would jeopardize our own right to vote as overseas voters. We went into this with a great deal of optimism that we would be able to better the process of voting from overseas, and we still hold that optimism. But the fight is certainly only just beginning, and we need to be in this together. And this amazing team that you see here, we need your help, and we need more Texans and people from other states to join the other state teams and move forward, because Texas is certainly not the only place where the battle for voting rights is happening. And so I just wanted to share some different opportunities that there are for joining in the fight for voting rights and for better voting access. And we hope that you will join us as we take this into 2022 and the midterms and become a part of our Texans Abroad team. We have some amazing women on this team of leaders, but we can't do this alone, as I just said. And if you're out there and you think you've got ideas and initiative and you'd like to join in with us in this fight, then let us know. You can write to Texans-Abroad@democratsabroad.org. We're going to be having a meeting on September 25th, an organizing meeting. We'd love for you to join us. There is plenty of work to be done, and it's really all hands on deck right now. One of the biggest things that we do is to ensure that our voters know how to vote and that they can vote. And so ballot protection is just one of the key aspects of what the state teams do, especially in Texas. And this is what we've been spending the majority of our time doing these last few months. And it's been great to build relationships to the Texas Legislature, and we need to continue to do that and invest time in building bridges to the state legislature so that they understand what it is that makes it difficult to vote from abroad and that they can help us. A very simple thing to do is to follow us on social media, join our Facebook group, to follow us on Twitter, and amplify the message that we're putting out, and just share. It helps to bring in more people, make more people aware that we're there, so that if they have questions, then we're there to answer them, that they know what's going on in Texas. Democrats Abroad is currently training for the phone banking sessions. If you are interested in calling Democrats who live across the globe, helping them understand how to vote, letting them know what deadlines are coming up, then you can, we're going to be sending out a link for a PDF, and you can find the phone banking sessions on there, or go to democratsabroad.org, and you can find out all about phone banking. It's actually really nice to talk to people across the globe. These are our members. It's slightly different than phone banking within the US, and it's a very rewarding way to spend your time. We made over 600,000 calls in 2020, and we increased the votes that went back tremendously. Like I said earlier, 50% more ballots were sent back, were counted in Texas than in 2016, thanks to efforts like this. Many special projects where you can hop on if you have time. This is something that's easy to do for when you can't stay involved throughout the year. That we thank our members here in Germany who wrote postcards, times to write letters, emails, rapid response, maybe even do some testimony in the future. So keep an eye out. You can join us on Slack, and where we can let you know what it is that's going on at the moment if we need this kind of rapid response. We just hope that you'll join us on September 25th if you're interested in becoming a volunteer with Texans Abroad. We will, the link for that is going to be in the PDF that we share. We'll meet Saturday at 8 p.m. Central European time, or 1 o'clock p.m. Texas time. If you're interested, you can also just send us an email at texans-abroad@democratsabroad.org, and we'll get you that calendar invitation. Just want to thank all of our guests this evening, and what an amazing and inspiring event this has been. And I think that Anne is smiling down on us. And please share this with your friends and family who didn't have a chance to join in. You can look at the Facebook link and watch this at any time if you want to go back and hear some of those great speeches again. And we know that these are dark and troubling times, but together we can face anything, and our collective actions can change the course of history. Just want to leave you with these words from Ann Richards, which apply to all of us. I've been tested by fire, and the fire lost. So thank you so much. Candace, are you there? She had to jump off to another meeting. All right. Thank you for everyone for joining us, and thank you to Lisa, especially because she has been so instrumental in getting Texans Abroad up and running, and helping us to be incredibly organized and having amazing ideas. And now that she's moved back to Texas, she'll be stepping back a little bit, but we're never going to let her step away completely. And we just appreciate everything that you've done, Lisa, and all of the work and the inspiration that you have been for us. And we just appreciate it so much. And thank you for this, and for your idea to have this event for Ann Richards' birthday. And we really appreciate everything that you do and have done for us. And we wish you well at your time in Texas. And I will.
Thank you, Jennifer. And thank you to everyone. Democrats Abroad is one of the most impressive organizations I've ever had the pleasure of volunteering with. And the potential in this group and in the larger organization is phenomenal. We really do have the power to tip the scales in these elections. And I have no doubt that even though I'm back in Texas and it feels very surreal, I have no doubt that that as Eliz said, that this is cyclical, and that we will all be a part of the change that we wish to see. Thank you. Candace, would you like to say anything in closing?
I'm just really thankful that we were able to have this. I didn't realize that I needed to have this conversation tonight. So tonight for us, and in channeling and spirit, I think it is important for us to all just keep that spirit alive by recognizing that we have to keep fighting. So while our rights to vote may be impacted by this session, that just gives us more fire to keep fighting on. And yeah, so I look forward to the help that, if people want to help us out with this process moving forward. We're definitely going to need a lot of hands in going after the legislation that comes out, in the coming sessions, and, working on that. So thanks, you guys.
We'll let our international chair finish it out for us tonight. And we just appreciate that everyone was here to see this.
Sure. I'm ending the call how I started it off. I am so excited by what is taken off with the Texans Abroad, with all of our state teams. I want to thank Jennifer, especially you and Lisa, and I see some other Texans Abroad organizers on this call. America, thank you so much for what you're doing to mobilize Texans Abroad. It really is making a difference. And I'd like to thank all of our speakers today for jumping on. Fabulous musician, Texas State musician. That was really moving, and a huge thank you to everyone who put this together. Again, if you are interested in joining Democrats Abroad, maybe you're listening and you're not yet a member, you can go to democratsabroad.org/join. And there you will find information on how to join, how to volunteer, how you can support our cause by making a donation. The link for that is at democratsabroad.org/donate. And we would love to have your support moving forward. If you're looking to join a state team specifically, maybe not the Texan one, maybe you're in another battleground state, you can write to us at states@democratsabroad.org, and we will make sure that you get linked up with a respective group. So again, thank you for joining our event today. Thank you to everyone who organized our event today. Looking forward to working with you in the future and turning Texas blue, playing the long game. Great. Have a nice day, everyone.